you, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Please marry me. Please take me. I love you. Wow. Wait, another educational stream after the last one? I know, right? Let's. I got the knowledge. So I woke up at stupid o'clock in the morning. I went to bed at stupid o'clock in the evening. Woke up at stupid o'clock in the morning. And actually ate. Cleaned up a little around here. Not much. It's still a mess. And, you know, sat and had to think about what I want to chat about today. And I thought about you guys and how awesome you are. You all suck. And I thought about Kat. I thought about some of the simps that I dated, and I didn't realize that they were simps because I didn't really realize what simp was. I thought it was just like the new word for cuck or white knight or whatever. But actually, those words are completely different, and we're going to be chatting about that today so that you realize when you've been entangled with a simp and you don't make the same mistakes that I did. Because it might sound awesome to have a dude or a lady who's like, worshipping your feet and over-fluffing your ego and just buying you things all the time, being super, super nice because please like me, oh my god, I was so alone. But it's not good, and it can get pretty toxic pretty fast. And so, like, yeah, I'm all about learning shit from my past and then passing on those tools to someone else so they don't have to make the same mistakes I do. Let's do that today. I think that's a good idea. Okay. So before I start talking about simps and stuff, I just want to say that I'm not having this chat to denigrate anyone that I've previously dated, and I would hope that you guys take a very understanding viewpoint on this. Please, you don't raise anyone up, not even yourself, by bringing anyone down, so try not to look down on anyone in this story, okay? Simp is a term I've never seen ever. Really? Okay. So simp is usually someone who, there's an acronym for it, but I won't be saying that on stream. I think it's rather inappropriate. But suffice it to say that simps are usually men, but they can be women too, who are obsessed with trying to sleep with women, but tend to not be very desirable, tend to be very socially awkward, tend to be not the kind of person that would be very successful in dating, not just because of their looks or anything, but because of their overall demeanor and desperation. And they tend to behave in very desperate ways that are very transparent, because they don't know how to interact with women, but they're obsessed with them, and they're obsessed with trying to get sex. And an example of a simp would be someone who pays so much focus and attention to a girl even though she's in a relationship because they think there's like some sort of queuing system and they'll be next in line. So they're the kind of guy who's like super nice to you and gives you loads of stuff, pays lots of attention to you, lends an ear whenever, you know, you want to bitch about your boyfriend or whatever. And then the minute you break up with them, they profess that undying love and go, clearly we're going to be together now. They're the kind of person who sells all their stuff so that they can donate like thousands of pounds to their favourite e-girl, and then they live off noodles for the rest of the month. They're the kind of person who will go on a date and instead of looking for social cues that she's interested and take things step by step, they're so profoundly desperate for love and attention and so profoundly desperate to get inside somebody that they'll just go, I love you, like straight off the bat. They'll be like, so what you gonna order? And they're like, I love you and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Please marry me. Please take me. I love you. Fucking, oh my god, please, I love you. Please, where are you going? Come back. I love you. Because they're just like, oh, they're like in a frenzy. Like their loneliness is compounded by their low self-esteem, and so they alternate between self-loathing and desperation, and the only validation they can think of that will make them feel less awful about themselves is how women feel about them. But like, first of all, I'll say like there's a difference between like a simp and a white knight. Sometimes a white knight can be a simp. They can be, you can be both. But they're different things. I mean, I used to think that simp was just the new buzzword because we come up with so many reasons to take the piss out of each other. Hardly any new words that are actually cool and, like, positive. We don't invent new words for, like, the awesome dude who holds the door open for you and shit like that or anything. We invent new ways to
shit on people for being thirsty. That's where all the new words come from these days. Yeah, okay, so I've had a few experiences with simps. My earliest one was when I was at school, and there used to be these boys, and they were really nerdy, and they liked playing card games and Warhammer, and, you know, they liked to stay at home and play computer games, and they weren't particularly sportsy, and they didn't have great social skills. They had a lot of body odor, and, you know, they were kind of like a stereotype, and, you know, I felt flawed, and I felt kind of like inherently like I would never be able to fit in anywhere. And so I kind of related to these guys and sympathized with them. So when they started coming over to me and saying, what are you drawing? What are you doing? I kind of felt like, wow. I kind of felt like I could speak to these guys because they were flawed like me. And so we'd all hide together in this classroom away from all the bullies and all the people in breakfast, in the playground. We'd just hang out together, and they'd play card games and stuff, and one by one of them would come over and compliment me on my drawing skills and be super nice to me, and they'd bring me treats, and they'd bring me sweets, and they were just giving me offerings, and I just had this herd of nerds following me around, and they would give me stuff, and they were being so nice, and I thought, wow, I have friends. This is friendship. But really, low-key, they were all desperate to be my boyfriend, and I didn't know this until quite late. So two of them in particular were particularly forward and kept giving me more gifts than everybody else, and they were constantly feeling like they were obligating me. So they were like, you've received my stuff, so now do you want to go on a date with me? Thinking that this is how you impress people. And one of them actually gave me a massive speech about how they were spending all of their dinner money on me, on gifts for me. And I didn't know this, and I didn't ask them to. And that they needed to take some time away from me for themselves, because they've spent all this money and it's not really, it's not really going anywhere or getting them anything. So now, because it hasn't got them anywhere, they feel like they have to take some space from me so that they can spend their money on their food and have, just take some time for themselves. I was like, what the fuck? So these guys were taking bets on who would get to date me first. And the first one that I actually took an interest in, this is before I knew the mentality behind it all and what they were thinking and planning and all this shit. He actually asked me to come home with him one day. So I did, and I thought we were going to play computer games or something, and I walked into his room and it was just plastered with porn. Like cutouts from magazines and newspapers, just titties everywhere, right? And a bed and a cupboard, and that's it. That was all that was in his room. And he said, oh, you look cold. Can I get you a jacket? And he opens up his wardrobe, and inside it's all lined with porn. Like, it's like a little wank cabin. Like, it's so weird. Like, why is the inside, like, you've got porn visible from every angle possible. There is no way you could look with, if you have a 360 kind of stimulus going on, why do you need it inside your cupboard? But anyway, so he pulls out this jacket, and then he sits on the bed and he pats the bed. Like, he gets under the covers and he pats the space next to him, and I'm just like, and I run out. I think I was like 11, and I run out of the room, and I never looked back. And he kept pestering me like, are we still boyfriend and girlfriend? Are we still dating? Hello? Please respond. Always trying to pester me at school and stuff, and I was just like, oh. Breakfast. Yeah, there's so much more to this story that I probably shouldn't include, because in the end he got a bit too much, and he ended up getting very severely hurt as a result. I'm not going to advocate for that. Let's just say self-defense is a thing. So there was a guy that I lived with for a while, and he had very low self-esteem. He was very isolated, and he didn't really have a lot of confidence in himself, and he felt very flawed and very worthless, and he would constantly be nice to me all the time, and I ignored so many warning signs. I think like he was like the one of the biggest examples of all the tick boxes. So I had a partner when I first started talking to him, and he was a bit of a white knight, like really severely a white knight. Like, he spent most of his day arguing with people on Facebook in defense of women. And I'm all for dudes supporting women and their rights and all that sort of stuff, but this dude was very clearly doing it for all the approval it got him. Because there were so many women who'd pat him on the back and be like, oh my god, yes! And it's so good to see a person with a penis saying it! And he was just like, finally, female attention. I saw him on Facebook and I befriended him for other reasons, but I clocked that behavior early on. And that wasn't why I engaged with him. But the thing is, before you judge me for being friends with him despite seeing that, I kind of see that most people have flaws. I don't see it as a reason not to be friends with people. I just see it as the thing you have to navigate in order to be a good friend. And he came to visit for like 2 days and then went back up to his place up country. He was like really like, wow, I had so much fun, guys, that was amazing. And I was really glad that it came off the way it did. And then a few weeks later, I decided to break up with my boyfriend at the time. I'd been with him for about 6 years, but he was getting a bit too much. And that was nothing to do with that guy visiting. But the guy assumed immediately that that it must have been because he visited and he impressed me so much, and it must have been because of him. And so he sent me this really, really long-winded kind of like, I'm in love with you message. And I was just like, oh no. And I was stressed and my heart was pounding because like he was one of my few friends. And he still assumed that like there was this queuing system and, you know, he was next in line. And because we talk a lot, he obviously is the next person in line sort of thing. And it was just, So that happened. And I gave him a really delicate letdown. That was just like, I'm demisexual, I tend to take a long time to connect with people, I just don't feel like we've connected in that way at all, I'm really sorry, I hope that you'll still be my friend after that. And he was like, yeah, that's totally fine. And we carried on talking as normal. So he moved in, and he seemed to have outlined that he didn't have any romantic expectations. And that happened, and everything seemed fine. But then sometimes I'd come home and there was alcohol and chocolates on my bed. In my room, out of nowhere. And I was like, at first I was like, oh, that's really sweet. And then sometimes my rabbits would be cleaned out. I'd come back from volunteering all day and all night. I'd have 1 hour before I had to go back out there again, and I need to brush my teeth, I need to have a shower, I need to groom, I need to pack my food, I need to clean the rabbits, I need to sort out the stick insects, and then I need to get back out again. And basically that kept happening, and it was really awkward and a lot of pressure. The reason why it was awkward and pressure and not actually really lovely was because I started to detect that there was like romantic interest behind it. And so I sat him down a few times and I went, it's really nice that you're cooking me food. And like, 'cause I'd come home and he'd have cooked like some food and he'd be like, this is because I believe in what you do, to ease the burden. At first I thought that was really sweet, but as things got weirder and weirder, I got really nervous about eating it. If a friend cooks you a meal, it's awesome and you eat the meal together. If a simp cooks you a meal, you feel this heavy weight, this heavy burden of pressure and expectation, like, you like me now, right? You like me now, right? You're gonna suck my dick, right? This counts on my stamp card, right? And you can feel that even if they're denying that that's the case, even if they go, that's not what's happening here. You can feel it fizzling, this desperation underneath it, and it's really scary. And it just ruins the friendship and the interaction, and you feel like kind of fed up with it, and you feel like a terrible person for being fed up with it. Like there's this kind of like, you're being nice to me and I so want to be nice back, but because of the context of this situation, I just feel exasperated. And you feel guilty for just being like, ugh. He was overly generous, and I sat him down and was like, could you stop? Because this feels like it's with intentions and I don't want to indulge them. And he was like, yeah, okay, I can stop. I'm sorry I made you uncomfortable. It's not with intentions, don't worry. And I was like, cool. But he didn't stop. And so I stopped eating the food he made and things like that. And he started throwing tantrums. Well, he didn't throw tantrums, he just got angry. He was like, well, I feel kind of like I'm trying to be your friend and I'm making you food and you're not eating any of it. And it's like, yeah, I told you to stop. And he's like, oh yeah, my bad, sorry. And then he'd keep doing it. And then I started going to parties with my friends who volunteered, and I was like, yay, social life, and I was really happy, and I'd come home buzzing like, oh my god, I'm making friends, I'm doing the thing. And he'd send me angry messages like, once again you've left me in the dust and the dirt, and I'll be like, what? And it's like, well, you're getting off to gallivant and these parties while I'm at home alone. And I was like, what? And he was like, I had this understanding that if I moved in with you, that you would introduce me to all of your friends and tell them that I was awesome and fluff me up and tell them that I was amazing, and I'd be able to waltz in and they'd be like, hey, it's you, and they'd all like me and I'd have friends. And I was like, you never told me that, and that's kind of a weird thing to expect from a roommate. And also, I did tell you that I was barely ever gonna see you, that we were probably gonna say hello in the morning when we head off to work, and that was about it. Like, where did all this come from? And so he started making demands he wanted to be a part of my business and help me with my business. He wanted to come out volunteering with me, and he got upset if I didn't invite him to everything I did socially. And I didn't invite him to do anything socially. In fact, I asked him specifically to stay away from my social life because he was acting so strangely. He was very obsessive. If I went out late at night, it didn't matter whether he had work the next day, he'd stay awake vigilantly waiting for me to come home, just to know that I came home safe. And it's like, I'm an adult woman, I'm cool, you're not responsible for my safety or welfare. What I get up to has nothing to do with you, and I feel a bit odd with you needing to know when I leave the house and when I'm home, seeing as you are just someone that is a roommate, and everything about that kind of almost invades my privacy. And to a point, I stopped wanting to talk to him about who I was friends with or who I'd been hanging out with, and he always kept trying to guess. He'd look over my shoulder when I was buying things or hunting for things to look, to use for rescue work and stuff, and he would overly invest in my life. He was the one who, when I borrowed his laptop to transfer some files, I looked in the recycling folder because I accidentally deleted the files, and I opened the first folder I found, thinking it would be my folder, and it turned out to be a folder called Motivation, and it was loads of pictures of me with my ex cropped out of the photo that he'd taken from my social media. He wasn't a narcissist, in fact he had quite low self-esteem. He was just really trying to connect and kind of bungling it, and I had a lot of sympathy and I had a lot of patience with it because I knew what it was to not quite be able to read the room, and I knew what it was to really want a connection, and I knew he was really demanding, but he just didn't understand. And so I sat down with him and I said, I'm really afraid to upset the balance because I need to share rent with somebody, and you're one of the few people that I would dare to invite into my home. So I kind of want to make this work, but at the same time, you're making demands to be a part of everything in my life. And he was like, I just want to prove myself to you because you turned me down, but I feel like we can change it around and we can be together if you could just see that I'm an awesome guy, and I can't do that unless you let me hang out with you. And so like I was like, well, no, you don't understand. You can't just make someone like you. A year after I turned him down and gone through this in circles over and over again, I said to him, you've been acting very strangely this past year towards me, and we've kind of battled with that a bit, but I'm thinking about trying to date. I think I've moved on since my ex, and I think I'm ready to find someone new. And he was like, if you date anyone, I'll make you homeless. I don't care. Like, I love living with you, but I am out, and I don't care what happens to you if you get a boyfriend. I was like, you swore down that you were my friend? You swore down that you were over it? Like, yeah. And now you know this position that you're in and that you have a position of power and you're using it to control me? How do you think that looks? And he sat there in silence, and I thought, I'll wait. We can sit here and I'll wait. And 20 minutes went by in silence, and I thought any minute now he's gonna take that back and go, yeah, that was kind of bullshit. And it didn't happen. Like, he just sat there for 20 minutes just like, yeah. And I was like, wait, think it through. You're not this kind of person. And he's like, I just don't want to get used. I just don't want to be used. I don't want to be taken for a chump. And I was like, how would you be used? And he was like, well, I buy you all this stuff and I do all this stuff for you, and then you just shit all over me and date someone else. And I was like, but I didn't ask you to do any of that stuff. So how am I obligated to, how do I owe you singleness? And he was like, yeah, you're right. I need to tone it down. I'm sorry, I take it back. I won't do that. And I was like, okay, so you're sure? So to outline, if I get a partner, you're not going to make me homeless, right? Everything's cool. And whether I have a partner or not is not going to define how you behave, right? And he went, yeah. And I was like, cool. And I was about to leave the conversation and he went, well, maybe. I was like, ah! Yeah, that situation was hard and it was awkward, but his jealousy tended to get to frenzy point, and eventually he had enough, and he, for his own mental health, ended up, leaving, and I ended up living with someone who was a bit more mellow, and that was helpful. And yeah, it all fell apart. The friendship fell apart. He was being too pushy. It was just a mess. So all I'd say is, if you're gonna learn anything from this, it's totally normal to feel thirsty. It's totally normal to feel hormonal and want to connect with people. I want to connect. I totally want a partner. I want to be nice to somebody. I want to get excited about all sorts of things with somebody there by my side. It's totally normal to want someone. But the way that normal people go about this, the way that's usually very healthy, is that you develop a friend group and you meet people through it. And then when you take an interest in them, you spend a little bit of time with them. And then if they crave your company, they'll want to spend more and more time with them, with you. And you can look for subtle cues and signs that they want to touch you, that they want to be close to you. And you can build a relationship from that over time. And then when you're pretty certain that they're showing lots of signs that they're interested in you, then you can, perhaps ask them on a date and see where things go. And that's a typical way that you can gauge over time whether it's reciprocal. But when it becomes simpy behavior is when it's not even about them, you're just desperate for pussy. And it's when you overcook it and you're too forward and too desperate, and you're not even waiting to see if they're interested in you back, and it's usually one-sided, and no matter how obvious it is they're not interested in you, you keep trying and keep holding out hope desperately. They could get with someone else, they could avoid you, they can ask you to step back, and you still keep pursuing them aggressively or jealously. And these sorts of behaviors can really drive your friends away and can really speak of something that you need to develop within yourself. It's okay to be thirsty, it's okay to be lonely, but it's not okay to make your bonus someone else's problem, and to not see how you're making other people feel with your behavior. It's not cool to obligate someone with generosity. Generosity should be done with no expectation. You shouldn't feel screwed over if you don't get a specific response. So if you're giving someone something, whether it's money or time or friendship or gifts, if at some point you start to feel this is too one-sided because they haven't done something in return, you're not giving from the right place. And you can drive people away from being too generous from the place of expectation, that you can obligate people to behave a certain way. I don't care how people respond to me giving stuff. I just like to see people enjoying something. I just think of people when I find something, and so I want to give it to someone and see them enjoy it, and that's a gift in itself. And I get to indulge the best part of me. I get to be the reason something good happened. That's why I'm nice to people. Not because I think down the line this is going to culminate in points and I get to cash in the form of sex or connection, okay? So yeah, when you're lovely to people, please be lovely to them because you just like being good, not because you want them to date you. I think if you try to impress people by doing stuff that you wouldn't do for a friend, it's not going to work out in the long run because you can't keep that up forever. And that would be my advice regarding simping. And I hope from seeing my perspective on it and seeing what I've experienced because of people's desperation, you can see that just how acutely it can fuck with people's lives to be the center of that kind of attention. That love is when you crave someone's company, not when you've given someone enough stuff or enough money, And I know that you're all worthy of it, and you might not feel worthy, but you are. There is love out there for everyone, I promise you. 16 minutes in, okay. It's weird because it's not make the build up feeling go away. Yeah, I don't feel like a deflated balloon at all.